Hi, so we are with Ayris Abad tonight, and we are having a special interview for all out there that are looking for great qualified candidates. We're actually doing things a little bit different. We are doing a little bit of a pre-screening interview for you guys, and we're bringing the professionals to you. We're bringing the skilled, qualified people that are ready to work, that have a fabulous resume, that have a fabulous work history, and we're just putting the face out there so that you guys can get to know them a little bit better before you call them for an interview. So I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much tonight for being here. And let's start. You are an operations director. You are a director of operations, operations manager, operations director, director of operations, any of those job titles that are currently listed, you are ready to go for. So tell me a little bit about, number one, why this is your area, your passion, and what brought you here, your experience,
Sure.
and what brought you here.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to this special event. I really appreciate that. I have a very interesting story. I actually started my young career in the restaurant business, and I was a restaurant manager for a very well-known restaurant, not the double M's, but for another one. And I had a gentleman that come through my drive-through all the time. And finally, he just said, Ayris, I think that you should be in sales. I laughed so hard. I thought the guy was like Coco crazy. And so finally, after weeks of this, he convinced me to try it out. So I left my very lucrative job at that point, took a $20,000 a year pay cut, and became a receptionist with an advertising company. Well, then I was like, hey, wait a minute, I can do that. So I went from a receptionist to a part-time inside sales rep to a full-time outside sales rep to an assistant manager to a manager within 18 months at the company. I broke every single sales record they ever had. And then I just became on fire for it because I realized, oh my God, sales is so much fun. Well, so that was the start of my career. And that was obviously quite some years ago. But as I progressed and learned more and took seminars and started learning that it wasn't just about sales, it was about helping develop other people and helping them achieve their goals, I was able to take those successes then and translate that more into a bigger spectrum of running teams. And when you can understand your interpersonal workings of every member on your sales team and what motivates them, and use that to cultivate and drive the core value of that company that you work for, then you get really good traction and you become number one in the companies, or you increase the sales volume and you're able to promote people. So that's really how my career started. And then as time went on, I got recruited from other companies and my positions kept moving up that ladder because I took that same process to everywhere I went, and I continued to grow as a leader, which in turn I passed that down to other people. So that's kind of like the 2-minute back history of where I started from.
So would you say that you have been also leading and managing people pretty much since the beginning of your career?
Yes, that's very true because I was a manager. I was actually a general manager in a restaurant business, and I led and managed. I actually took over a really bad restaurant, and then that became number one in the Pacific Northwest, and then it became in the top 5 of the company. So I felt like I was already doing fantastic. But you can't do that unless your team is on fire for the same goals and the same values that either your company is trying to go, or you're helping them see how those employees attain their own personal goals. The company wins anyways. And I would say all my successes are contributed to the teams that rose up to those challenges and wanted that drive and became more.
So how do you think you turn a team on fire? What would you say about that?
Well, first of all, I hate losing people. So I never walk into a situation with the idea that I'm going to like start over again, because that's just way too much work. The goal is to get to know people individually. What are their goals at? Like, so for an example, at one of the companies that I worked for, I sat down and had a 15-minute conversation. I did kind of like a mini needs analysis, like, what are their 6-month goals? How much money do they want to make? Are they trying to buy a house? They're trying to buy a car. Well, how much more money do they need to make to get that? And I walk them, have them walk me through what their needs are. And then I turn that back around and I say, okay, well, I can help you get there. How much money would it take to get you there? And then all of a sudden, then we work the dollars back into that. And now they're on fire because they're like, oh, wait a minute, this job really can do that. And then you walk into the next step of that is, okay, this is what you need to do to get there. So that's how you get their buy-in. Really, at the end of the day, what you're doing is having them meet and exceed their expectations, to meet and exceed the expectations that the company has to fulfill that drive or that goal in that particular department or region or area.
That's awesome. So you're talking to me about those resources and that support that you were giving your subordinates or the people in your team. Now tell me, what is it that you personally need from those people above you, from those people that are holding you accountable for the work that you need to produce, to put out?
That's a really great question. I think there has to be some kind of structure there. I need to know where the boundaries are at. So, for example, is there incentives? And if so, what's that incentive base, going to be? Is it dollars? Is it gift certificates? Is it, I have to know that because I got to play into that role. I also need the support to know where is the expectation of the growth of the company is supposed to be 30, 60, 90, 6 months, and a year, 5 years down the road. Because you can grow a team and you can grow a department and you can grow whole operations. But if you don't know where the company expectation is, you might not go as fast as they need it to go, or you may not hit those key points. And the goal is you really need that in black and white to understand what you're walking into, where you need to go, and how you need to get there. Other than that, just good feedback from them to make sure that we're still on track. And after that, it's, pretty easy to go from there. And the only other thing I would say, the company has to have really good values and people have to be important to them, because that's important to me.
So talking about that, you said the company needs to have really good values. And I say this to everybody, that not only the job seekers, but also the hiring managers, I want everybody to know, like, to have clear what, number one, the company values are, and number two, what your own values are, because they really should be able to match. So what are ideal company values for this ideal company where you would work?
I think integrity has to be in the top 5. I look for that because if a company has integrity, they have integrity with their people, they're going to do the right thing for their customers, they're going to do the right thing for the company. So integrity is number 1. I think the commitment to help other people grow and be successful would be number 2. Even if a company has no room for growth, the ability to be able to know that cross-training their people and keeping that commitment level to value their employees, that solidifies people wanting to stay. People stay at a company because of the people they work with and how they're treated. So those 2 things are critical. And then above all else, just honesty, good, honest communication. I think if you have those 3 things, you are halfway there, no matter what you do. And those are the 3 things that are very important to me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. So we've talked about really a lot of soft skills that you bring to the table, that you bring to teams, that you have in order to develop successful teams around you. Give me a little bit more of functional information regarding experience that you have as far as ops goes. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. So at the end of the day, you're only as good as your people are, but your people and what they do are a direct result of your numbers. And so you have to know your numbers as a company, because that's what you're held accountable for. It's your people that get you there. But as a director of operations, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about black and white. How did you perform? How did your team perform? And how did you get there? So some of those things are KPIs, your key performance indicators, whether it's in a sales environment or it's in a call center or you're running a Fortune 100 or 500, multiple channels. For example, that was my last director of operations. That's what I ran, was the multiple channels. You have to know what those KPIs are for each individual one. Then you have to coach for either success or you coach for performance. And there's two different types of coaching there because you're still held accountable for those numbers. So that's a lot of coaching. It's a lot of monitoring. It's a lot of either ride-alongs or quality assurance calls. It's, following up on, do you have to do verbal plans? Do you have to do a performance plan? Do you have to, or are you giving accolades, right? Because you have to have a good balance of both. Because at the end of the day, it is black and white. Did you meet those numbers and how did you do it? So all those things come into play to make that happen.
Okay, perfect. So tell me about, this is an extra question I'm throwing you out there. Tell me about a situation where you had an underperformer that maybe you tried to work with for a while. How do you handle, what is your process to handle an underperformer?
Sure. So my process is I really just want to take them outside of that zone. So for example, I take them outside into a different office or not, you don't do it on the floor, you do it separate. And my first thing is always going to be, how's it going? A lot of times you're going to find probably a good 85% a non-performer. There's outside influences that are impacting their daily work. So you have to find out if that's really the problem. That has to be the very first step that you do. So once you find that out, if you find out that's not an issue, then the next thing I take the conversation to is, tell me about your job. What do you like about your job? What do you not like about your job? How do you feel that you're doing according to your job performance and your job description? I get them to tell me because they have ownership when they tell me. It comes out of their mouth, they own it. So once they talk about that, they know if they're making the numbers, they know if they're, attaining that or not. And then I'll just ask them, what do you think that you need from me, from your other managers, from your peers, from other support to be more successful? And they'll tell you 90% of the time they already know, but they either don't know how to ask for it, or they feel uncomfortable asking for it, or they're embarrassed. So you have to make that conversation be very open so they can ask for the help. It's more coaching, and you put a plan together and you put a 30-day, what we call performance indicator plan together, and you write it down, and then you both sign it, and they have parts they're going to do. And either a manager or myself would have another part that they would do to help them be successful to make that turn. The key to that is monitoring that and putting that on there, how many times you're going to be monitored to help make sure that you're attaining those goals. And at the end of that 30 days, you should be at XYZ performance level. And if you're not, then unfortunately at that point in time, there'll have to be a different kind of conversation. Very rarely do I say, you're going to be not working here anymore. Because a lot of times you don't need to say that. They already know that. Right. But you're just walking them down. Okay, at the end of this, if there's no performance and we both work together and we can't come to a good conclusion where you're meeting the company expectation and standards and we're trying to help you be successful, then we'll have to have a different conversation. They already know what that is, but the softer way of saying that. And if they're telling you what they need, now you have buy-in. Now they're gonna either jump on that opportunity to be more successful. 9 times out of 10, if it still doesn't work, usually they leave on their own. They'll put their 2 weeks notice in and they'll leave on their own. It's just a softer approach.
Right. I agree. Okay, perfect. All right. So tell me, I think we can kind of give people an idea pretty much of what you are about, but tell us about your location right now. Where is it that you're looking for? Geographically, and also, you know, your ideal work schedule, as well as your ideal industry, if there's any, you know, if you have a dream job, tell us all about it.
Well, I'd love to be able to say I have a dream job. Unfortunately, I've worked in advertising. I've done digital advertising, print advertising. I've been in the uniform business. I've been in the copier business. And now my last one, I was in manufacturing and working with e-commerce sites, which was really, really exciting. So I am graciously blessed enough to say that I've tried a lot of different industries, and I've loved them all. So I don't really necessarily have a job industry specific, but I would love to try something new that I haven't done before. My skill set's there, and I always get recruited to do something new, and I usually do it well. So as far as that part goes, I'm open. As far as hours, Monday through Friday would be awesome. And 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, that's fine. I do have other obligations, and so the weekends are pretty much not really available, although I will do some as needed for like trade shows or a special event. I did that before, and I don't have an issue doing that as long as they're pre-scheduled out. So I am looking for something like that. I'm in Ocala. I just recently moved to this area. It's a beautiful area. So of course, you get 40 minutes each way, kind of opens quite a lot of doors of where I can go.
Okay, perfect. So, Ayris, anything else that you want to add that we have left out? Anything that you would like a hiring manager to know?
Just that I'm very driven, and my resume speaks for itself. And at the end of the day, it's about having fun, but yet meeting standards and expectations.
Beautiful. So what we are going to do is put all your contact information with this video, and let employers contact you.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.